you're all doing wonderfully and have had an amazing holiday season so far. It is almost the new year. We've had a great couple of weeks. It's been really nice spending time with friends and family and doing our own little holiday stuff. Whatever holidays you celebrate, I hope that you were able to celebrate them in the way you wanted to. I hope that you didn't do anything out of obligation or anything because you felt like you had to. I hope it's been really joyful. And I hope that continues on into the new year for you. I just finished reading Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, and it really hit home. If you haven't read it, I'm kind of late in the game because I think it was published in 2015. It's a really amazing book about living a creative life, but living the creative life that you want to. And it's not just for people who do artwork or knitting or photography. I feel like anyone can read this book. Like even my husband, who's a software engineer, should read the book because it still talks to being creative. And we all have creative hobbies or creative ways about us, just in the way, you know, my husband creates the software that he makes. The book talks about how it's important to create because it's what feeds you and not because you create out of guilt or out of the need to keep up with someone else or anything. That if you're making something and you feel exhausted by it or pained by it or, you know, oh, I can't wait to finish this, then maybe you shouldn't do it. That it's important to love the things that you do. Or that if you are doing something and you feel that way, maybe you should reframe the way you're looking at it. Why are you doing it? And how can you make that project something that you love and enjoy? Because sometimes, so I know I'm speaking mostly to knitters, sometimes you'll be sitting there knitting and think, oh, I can't wait to be done this project. Well, what is it that's making you feel that way? Do you feel like you want to be done because there's something else you have to get to? Do you feel like you want to be done because you're not enjoying it? What is it that's making you not happy with that project? And how can you find the joy in it again? There's so much more to that book than just this. But it was the perfect timing in that the holidays brings about for so many people this feeling of dread. And I always feel like that's really sad because there's supposed to be a joyous time. Whatever you are celebrating this time of year, it should be a joyous thing. And that if you feel guilty because you didn't get the right present, or you feel obligated to have to go to the in-laws and you don't care for being with them, whatever it is, I think it's a good idea to reevaluate. One, why are you doing something that you don't enjoy? And can you reframe how you're looking at it? So, little rant. Hi! I hope you're having a really good week so far. It's Thursday and it's about to start pouring. So I know it looks really bright behind me, but it's actually really dark outside. So hopefully the lighting in here is okay. I have one finished object, and then my husband has one finished object, and I'm going to hopefully, he's in that office right there in a meeting right now, but hopefully soon he can come and talk to you about it. The first one I have is something you haven't even seen yet. And I knit this out of the Wild in the Wood Sea Folk yarn, and I've shown it to you before, but I've been wanting to make a design with it and had not figured it out. So I'm going to tell you the story of how I made the design first, because I think it's kind of funny. I had the yarn there, I was looking at it, I knew I really want to make a colorwork cowl out of this. So let me see if I can figure out the right pattern that I want. So I sat down at my computer and I pulled up my software and just started plugging in colors here and there to see if I could come up with the right design. And first, let me say, I don't drink much. I just don't like the flavor of it. I like the really, really sweet stuff, but that's not good for me, so I don't drink much. My husband occasionally will bring home a hard apple cider. He likes the hard apple ciders, and we have at least one brewery around here who makes those. He brought home some holiday flavors a couple weeks ago. And one of them was Bing cherry, elderflower, and apples. And I thought, that sounds really tasty. I want to try that. So I popped it open, sat down at my computer. It was 9 o'clock. And I started, you know, working on a design. By 10 o'clock, 1 hour later, I was in bed, laughing hysterically and drunk, texting my daughter. 1 hour. I had 1 hour before I was gone. Luckily, Toby was laying next to me laughing at me and saying, that one you need to send. No, 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 don't send that one. She was on a trip. She does not know that I had drunk texted her. It wasn't that obvious, luckily, but she was on a trip and she had communicated a couple times through text with my husband. And I was like, I haven't heard from her for 5 days and she can't text me. So I was texting her things like, don't you love me? I sent better snow, because it had just snowed. I sent better snow pictures than your father. Why haven't you texted me? She probably just thought I was being weird, because I would probably send silly things like that even when I wasn't drunk. And then I could even call myself drunk off of one small 12-ounce bottle of apple cider vinegar, or hard apple cider. Oh God, I'm glad I wasn't drinking apple cider vinegar. But out of that evening, I got about 15, 20 minutes of pattern writing time, and I came up with this. So it looks like, to do my best patterns, I need to get myself drunk, and then I have about 15 minutes to get something written. So here it is. And what I've done is I've made a standard cowl until about this, the back section basically, and I put in some short rows to increase the depth so that you can wear it as a hood. So you can wear it as a regular cowl, or you can pull it over your head and you've got that extra space to cover your ears, cover your head. The pattern's in testing right now. However, if you really like it and you want to test it, feel free to let me know and I'll send you the details. It has 4 different options for ways to knit it, so that it's going to have a lot of variability, but I think it turned out really beautifully. I love the pattern of it. I think it's really beautiful. I know that some people say that you're not supposed to do color work with single ply yarn, because this is a single ply. But then I thought, well, let Lopi, which is an Icelandic yarn, is like a traditional colorwork yarn. So I didn't see why that would really matter. So I knit it, and it wasn't, when I was first knitting the swatch, it didn't look like the colors were going to stand out as well as I wanted the design. But I also know that the same thing happens when I'm knitting with Let Lopi. The pattern doesn't pop until you block it, and it really blooms. And that's exactly what happened with this yarn. As soon as I blocked it, it just filled in the spaces and really looked beautiful. So I'm excited about this pattern, and I hope you guys like it as well. I'm hoping to have it out in the beginning of February for my birthday. So it'll be a fairly long testing period, just to take it easy since we're getting through the holidays, and enjoy the testing of it. So that is one of my only finished object, and I'm gonna go get Toby and see if he'll tell you about his. This is my husband, Toby.
Hello.
He's not officially been introduced. And this is his new hat. So tell me about it.
It's a hat that I knit myself. The yarn is dyed with black walnut.
Yep.
Maria dyed it, and then the pattern is, what is it?
The Fisher Cable hat. I did it checked, yeah.
By what's her name?
Lindsay Felice.
Lindsay Felice.
Yeah, and it's a free pattern on Ravelry.
Yeah. And it's my third hat pattern. My most successful hat that I've knit so far.
Here, I'll hold it up for you.
Okay. And it's the first time I've done cabling, which is fun. I enjoyed that. And
you added a little extra depth to it.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I added 5 rows to the body of it to try to make it a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first 2 hats. Well, the first thing you knit was a cowl.
I did a cowl out of a really bulky yarn, and then I did also bulky.
The Mohawk hat. It was pretty big yarn.
I did 2 of those, one for me and one for a friend, and then I did 2 other hats that the first one was far too large and the second one was too small, so I don't wear those. Yeah, I'm really happy with the way it turned out. Yeah,
I think it turned out really nicely and it fits you well. But this time, I taught him how to knit continental. I mean, he's left-handed, so that was, I think, a little easier because you're doing a lot of the work with your left hand. But taught him how to tension his yarn with his hands so that he wasn't pulling super tight as he knit. And I see a lot of beginning knitters do that. You'll do 1 stitch at a time and then tend to give a tug, which is fine if the gauge works out for the final product. But it seemed like he'd swatch and the swatch would turn out, and then once he got on the needles, got the project on the needle, it ended up too small or too big.
To be fair, that big hat was because the tape measure I was using
it was wrong.
Did 3 centimeters per inch, right? And so instead of 2.5, and so the inches were not inches, and I don't.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that. It was a very cheap, very wrong.
I threw it away after we figured that out. But yeah.
Is it a pattern you'd suggest to beginning knitters?
Sure, why not? I don't know what to compare it to. I did. I enjoyed it. Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, it's nice. The cabling was a lot of fun. It was nice to see that kind of grow. Yeah.
I think that's hard to envision for people who don't knit.
Yeah.
How just simply taking 2 stitches and doing this with it can create such a cool design.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we talked about another hat. I was thinking about knitting one of Maria's designs that has more cabling in it next.
The Hearth and Snow with the big cable up the side.
Because you can't have too many hats, right. I guess. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
You're welcome. All right. See you later.
As my works in progress projects, I have 3 of them. My first is my cloak. I finished the body of it, and it's really large. So here it is. There's the bottom. It looks much more red right now than it is in person. It's much more of a brick color. Let's see if I can get that color for you. It might be a little too bright in here. That's a little bit more like it. But I think it turned out beautifully. I love the Latvian braids. I love the color work. The front is where it will be steeked right here. And then I'll add the hood and finish it off. This is probably the last you're going to see of it because I want to leave something of surprise for it to come out. I'm hoping to put it into testing in January. So if you're interested in testing, let me know. It'll be starting soon. It's going to be a long testing period because it's a big project. And thinking about that, I know I was saying a few episodes ago that I wanted to have it ready to knit this winter so you guys could work on it and wear it, but it takes a long time to knit this thing, and I want you to enjoy it and not rush it. So I think if I can have it out in April or May, sometime this spring, then you'll have spring, summer, and the fall to work on it and have it ready and enjoy the process and enjoy the knitting, because I really enjoyed knitting it, and I'm excited to wear it. So there's also going to be a whole story and all kinds of amazing things coming along with this. I've been in touch with a few other people who are going to be contributing aspects, certain aspects of this pattern. that I can tell you more about in the future, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So keep your eyes open for it. Here it is again. Yay! All right. The next work in progress that I have is just a swatch that I've done so far for the Cartagena sweater that Kaya wanted. And this is the one by We Are Knitters. And she chose a cream and terracotta color, and I'm sure that terracotta won't show up very well right now, but it's kind of an orangey red. So I wanted to do everything that I could from this kit and not add anything to it, so I could see how it worked out. And I have not knit on wooden or straight needles in many years, so it was fun taking these out and trying them again. It was weird having that extra length because I'm not used to that, but I did enjoy it. Unfortunately, I can't get the right gauge with these needles. My knitting is a little too tight, and so, or a little too loose, I guess, and so it's leaving a lot of space. And I know Kaya will want something that's a little more closed. So I'm gonna go down a couple needle sizes, I think, and do another swatch. One thing that I did notice, these are size 5mm or US 8, but when I took out my own needles, I realized they just looked bigger than that. So when I tested them, on a little gauge, let me see, this little thing, whatever it's called, your little gauge card, or so that you can tell how big a needle is. It works as a size 9. So this is the 8 and it won't go in, and there's the 9. So it's not a big deal because however you get gauge, whatever you're using. I mean, you can use 2 branches if you're getting the right gauge, but knowing that I want to change my needles, it's helpful to know that this is closer to a 9, because then I'll probably go down to a 7 and do another swatch and see. It's also helpful so that if I were to use these needles and someone else wanted to try and repeat what I did, if I've got it on my project page that I used a size 8 and it was actually size 9, I don't know, it's just helpful to know what size needles you're working on. So with any needles you have, I'd suggest if you're getting new needles, give them a test and see, but particularly ones that are handmade, it's a good idea just to give them a check. So I'm going to recast on the swatch and try a size 7 needle and see if that comes out with a better fabric, a little more closed fabric. But I love working with the cotton. I've never been a huge cotton fan because it's a little stiff, but the cotton from We Are Knitters is luscious. It's soft and works really nicely. So that's one thing I have noticed so far. Another thing, or I guess the last thing that I'm working on, I'm working on for a friend, and I'm not going to say who because she watches the podcast, but it is, let's see, the Metamorphic sweater, and this is what it looks like. It is a Henley sweater that has a little color work in the center, and I thought, I really wanted to do something color work for this person, but I'm not sure that they would like having a large color work yoke, or that they would wear anything like that. And and I didn't want to do cables because I wasn't sure if they'd wear those either. But I didn't want just a plain sweater because that wouldn't be so fun to knit. So this so far has been really enjoyable. I'm only working on the top shaping for the neck, where you'll, so it's not connected yet in the round. This is all I've got. So this is where the neck will be. And then I'm building kind of the Henley part, the little part where the button will go. And then I'll connect it in the round. I'm using Cascade 220. It's a very affordable yarn, which is one thing that's really nice. It's also very soft. It's 100% wool, but I don't know that this person, I know that they'll take the care to hand wash, but I don't know that they would wear a wool that is at all scratchy. So that's why I decided to go with this one, because it is super soft. and very wearable. And this is their heathers, Cascade heathers. And I'm doing very similar to these colors, the gray and then the light blue and then a dark blue on the bottom. And then, oh, and I'm knitting those on some new needles. For years, when I first started knitting, had a huge selection of bamboo needles, wooden type needles. And I got them because they were cheap. But I didn't necessarily like them. Usually the tips were fairly rounded, and so it wasn't easy to get into the next stitch. And it also felt like there was too much friction, like I was trying to pull the yarn to try and get things to move along. So I ended up going to the carbons, and I have some of those right here. And the carbons have a carbon shaft and then the slick metal on the ends. And I liked that you got a little bit of friction from the center, but not too much, but it had a better point and a smoother point. But with these, you have 3 connection points, right here, and then where it attaches to the cable. And that gives you a lot more opportunity to have a joint that doesn't move smoothly. Some of the needles, things slide right over and there's not a problem at all. But if there is the tiniest difference between this section, like the metal and the carbon, or at any point, your yarn gets caught. And it's really annoying. So I'd been thinking about getting new needles for a while, and I'd put on my wish list the Gu metal needles. I'd put those on there because I was using them for knitting my socks. The Gu red lace for sock knitting, the cable is nice and flexible, which is good because I almost always do 2 at a time on magic loop. So I have this nice big cable and then working on both socks at the same time. And there's no connection points there because it's not an interchangeable needle. It's a fixed needle. Because they're so small, it's hard to make interchangeable needles that are that skinny. But I really liked working with them, so I thought it would be nice to try the full-on metal. And my mother was kind enough to get me these for Christmas. She got me the whole set. It's the Gu interchangeable set. So there is one connection point, and that will be where they attach to the cable. But the rest of it, the whole thing, is one smooth piece, which is really nice. And there are 2 sets of cables because the small needles have a larger or a smaller connection point than the large needles. Let's see if I can show you that. So you can see right there that the smaller needle has a smaller connection. So we have 2 sets of cables for those. But I am really enjoying them so far. I was worried that it would be too slippery because I know a lot of people, when you're knitting with metal needles, it's almost too slick. But I feel like I've gotten to a point in my knitting where the way I hold my yarn seems to tension everything fine, and it's not too slick for me. So I'm really excited to use those and not have the frustration of catching on anything. One other thing that I got that I've actually shown you already, except I didn't show you what was inside, is this little gift box from Maria Shpakova of Dillfield Cosmetics. First, let me tell you a little something about why well, there's many reasons I like talking about her stuff, but one of the things is, when we first moved out to the land, I wanted to do it all. I wanted to grow my food, can my food, make my bread, sew my clothes. I wanted to be able to create everything. I wanted to live off the land and feel like it was all handmade, which I think is amazing. And so many people are trying to live like that these days, especially in the area where I live. But what I realized, and it took me a while to learn this, it took me years, in fact, a frustration, feeling like I wasn't good enough, I couldn't do it all, I should be doing better, I should be getting more hours in a day, how is it that people can live like this? To realize, when we used to live like that, when we lived more off the land, more tribal. We had community, right? There was a community of people around us. This person made the bread, that person made the medicine, that person made the clothes, or groups of people did it together and then you shared. But when we're living now on our own land in, without any neighbors, without any community, you can't do it all. You can't work the 40-hour work week and still bake the bread and make the clothes and make the medicine and all of that. It's just not possible. And it became very frustrating and I felt like I wasn't good enough. Because I would see, again, social media always plays a big role into how we feel about ourselves, doesn't it? I would see these people homeschooling their kids and baking their bread and making their clothes and doing all of these things. But then I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And I finally realized this isn't something you can do on your own. You either have to have community or you have to create that community and trade. So it became a big thing for me to support other makers in doing the things that I wasn't as excited about doing. I used to make my own soap and make my own lotions and make my own hair shampoo and do my own medicines and all of that stuff. But though I enjoy making soap occasionally, it's fun, I don't necessarily always want to do it. And there are so many people who make amazing soaps. So why not trade or support them and then take that time that I would have otherwise spent making the soap to do something that I enjoy? It's the same thing from that book, Big Magic, that we should be living the lives that bring us joy and not a life of obligation. And I know that that's hard. And I know that I live in a place where I get that choice. And there's not everybody has that choice to be able to do the things that only bring them joy. And I totally understand that. But if you find that you're in a situation where you're doing something that doesn't bring you joy, you can at least step back for a second and say, why? And is there something I can do differently? Because I think if we live our lives frustrated and angry at what we're doing, then we're just causing ourselves suffering, right? So instead of sitting in the suffering and wallowing in the sadness, how do we change that? And for me, one of the things to change that was to be okay with letting go of this ideal that I had of me being this homesteading woman who, did all of these things myself. I know I'm capable of doing it. I know I can make my own soap and make my own medicine and make my own clothes. I know I can do that, but I didn't want to, and I wasn't enjoying it. So anyway, not long story short. Maria is Maria Shpakova is one of those businesses that I've found that I really enjoy supporting because she's a mama who makes amazing products and she finds her joy in making these products. And so I like supporting that because I can feel that joy when I use these. So she had sent me a little goodie box for the holidays, and it had inside soap, of course, which she is amazing at making. It's not only great soap, but it's beautiful. So there's some lavender with some sparkles. And this is a lavender shea butter soap, so it's super moisturizing, which is really good in the winter for me because my skin gets super dry. And a hemp seed shea butter lotion. And this is the most luscious, decadent stuff I have ever used. You can see how thick it is. And it smells so good, but it's not like it's heavy in its thickness, but it's not heavy on the skin. It absorbs right in and it's so lovely. And my skin gets so dry in the winter because we have a wood stove. It dries everything out in the house. So I love it, absolutely love it. So I would say if you're interested in supporting another maker and you don't have the time, the desire, and you don't make things like that anyway, check her out because she has amazing stuff. And I've not used anything from her that I have not wanted to rave about. So thank you, Maria, for sending that to me. And I hope that the recipient of the other one who won from that giveaway is really enjoying it. It's really nice stuff. And there's one other pattern I wanted to tell you about that has just come out a few days ago, and it is the Midnight Snow sock pattern by Natalie Sheldon of Remembrances Pottery. You guys saw the socks that I knit for myself that were her Bridget's Garden, and this is her second sock pattern, and she's amazing. These things are absolutely gorgeous. The Midnight Snow pattern is a colorwork sock that has a house and steam coming from the chimney and snow and trees, and how she figured out how to design that, I don't know, but it's absolutely gorgeous. So I would say take a look at it if you like colorwork and knitting socks. It's called Midnight Snow. And oh, some other thing I got from Miss Natalie this for Advent. She and Marth of Hey Brown Berry and I did an Advent swap, which was really, really sweet. We each made 12 gifts for each person and then swapped them so that in the end you had your 24 days. And these ladies went far beyond what they should have, and absolutely amazing things. But one thing that I wanted to show you was this adorable mug. Natalie is a very talented potter, and it's very hard to get her mugs because as soon as they go up in the shop, they're gone. But it's not just the hand making of the mug, but the artwork that she puts onto them are really, really beautiful. And another one I wanted to show you, because I'd tried for a long time to get a mug from her, and I always missed it because they sold out too quickly. And this one is, I'd asked her if she would make me a birch bark mug, because this is one of the designs that she makes, and she did, and it's supposed to look like a white birch tree, and it totally does. It's absolutely beautiful. So I've had this for a while, and for Advent, on the last day, she sent me something that said, I made this right around the same time as I made your mug. I never listed it or brought it to a show. It needed just the right home, and now it's time for it to meet its mate. And look at this. It's a platter, a birch platter. Isn't that gorgeous? So I'm going to treasure these. I actually brought them out to I brought all of her stuff out to the cabin because I don't want anyone else using it in the house. Because, you know, sometimes they get broken, and I do not want these getting broken. And if it's my fault that I break it, then it's a little easier to accept than if the kid drops the plate because he was holding it with one hand or something. So these are going to stay in here. So I hope you guys have an amazing beginning to your 2019. I will see you in January. Have a great couple of weeks. Bye.